We've been having a lot of anti-Steve tech on the channel lately, which by the way is still practical since not everywhere has banned Steve. So how about another idea? This one comes from a few sources which I have shown on screen, but the general idea is very simple. Steve using a short hop anvil right next to you isn't an uncommon thing to see, even a full hop one. The shield pressure is pretty intense and the shield pokes on the landing hit because Steve costs money to play, unlike my Discord server which is almost entirely free and linked in the description. I'll touch up on that later in the video and at the very end. However, at this relatively low height, he actually can't jump off the anvil until after he lands, which actually does keep him frozen in this animation for a bit. And you can give yourself some good priority by parrying the falling hit, which if you jump after, you can then avoid the landing hit and you're in a good spot here. Now granted, the parry isn't even necessary if the anvil is far enough away, just whatever lets you act after the first hit and avoid the landing one. Now sure, parrying a move to have advantage over an opponent is not very revolutionary, like yeah, random fact number 857, you can parry. But the thing is, this specific scenario actually gives quite a bit of options for how you punish. Now, because Steve is on solid ground, that means you can hit him with like a spiking move or a stunning move or something like that. And even if the threshold is really small for your character, even if Steve shields here, you can still put him in a bad spot by adding more pressure or maybe like grabbing or something like that. But the real juicy potatoes is for moves that stun for a while and have less end lag, giving you plenty of time for a true follow-up, like Captain Falcon. Now you might think, really? Just a jab finisher? That's kind of stupid, just like you. Well, okay, the best part of this whole setup is the fact that the anvil disappears. And if we know anything from Steve combos, it's that disappearing terrain opens up a lot of stuff. Stuff kind of like this one. Yeah, okay, I ripped that one off from Grace and Glory, so let's try expanding our options a bit. Combos do still work here even if they spike, not stun. Like you could do an up tilt or something else, and as long as the opponent doesn't go too high, you can still follow up with a jab, and this opens up the timing for a lot of characters. Admittedly, I start to push the boundaries for what is and isn't a true combo the more I do this, but man, there's really a lot of potential with this setup. For example, if Steve is still technically on the anvil, and he's in hit stun from a jab or something when the anvil disappears, he'll briefly be put into tumble, meaning he can't instantly jump or air dodge away. He can tech the landing if he reacts, but more often than not, him falling down like this can technically extend the combo. I really do think there's loads of potential for how you can use Steve's own anvil against him for funny, too niche to be practical but still technically realistic enough to be cool combos, and I've just kind of scratched the surface of the combo iceberg. At the bottom of the iceberg is where you get things like the gas leak in the tournament lobby to win while your opponent is unconscious combo. Now, what do we call this tech? I'm gonna try and cater to the crowd who likes their names to be literal, so let's call this the anvil spike on Steve's head into auto-cancel trickery. Awesome. Alright, shut up. Next is a tech shown by Snormonda regarding our favorite low guy, Lucas. Lucas's up smash has always been among my favorite moves of his. I love how it echoes an important story moment, looking like he's pulling one of the Dark Dragon needles, and it's just straight up a super big and powerful move. I like to throw it out randomly and hope it works, the 10% of gamblers strat. But one thing I especially love about this move is its invincibility frames on startup. From frame 1 up to frame 7. If you can hard read when someone uses an attack, you can effectively parry, which is super cool. It just makes sense having this on such a big move, since normally this kind of invincibility needs to have some sort of risk or cooldown to sort of balance out its power. Wait, what? No, that wasn't a superstar or any item or anything. Lucas can just kinda do that. And to understand this, we need to understand up smash canceling, which is actually super simple. You can cancel an up smash within 2 frames of its startup. The 3rd frame onwards and you're locked into the animation. But if you jump on frames 1 or 2, the up smash will stop and you'll be locked into some kind of aerial, or even a special attack or something as you input. Basically, you'll still be forced to attack after the jump, but just not with an up smash specifically. And wouldn't you know it, as a reminder from about 55 seconds ago, Lucas's up smash has invincibility from the 1st frame onwards to the 7th. So you can input the up smash, experience the first 2 frames of invincibility that accompany, and then cancel the up smash into something a little bit safer, a little lower commitment. Yeah, this is technically a 1 to 2 frame perfect tech, but I only struggle with it because I'm trying to input it while timing it with my second controller on the other character. On its own, I can get it somewhat consistently. And Lucas isn't a stranger to difficult tech. Like, frankly, I still have no idea how people can do this Zaire movement tech consistently. And I think having the ability to throw out 2 frames of invincibility tied to safe aerials or specials is insanely interesting, because you know there's going to be people who get good at this. It's not particularly broken, you still need to be grounded initially before inputting it, so you can't really do it out of hitstun or anything crazy, and there's a huge timing factor involved too. But dude, come on, this tech is just sick. And I'm not even going to name this one. Because all of you are apparently amazing naming wizards, I'll let you handle it and comment down below what this tech is called. And the person who comes up with the name that I like the most will get a single breadstick. Just not with the sauce, that's mine. But I'm kind of tired of tech. Let's go somewhere a bit more natural with this, the wiki page for the bunny hood. As you know, normally when you experience a size change, this affects your character's stats in a few ways, be it movement or attack damage, knockback, all sorts of things. But there's some forms of size change that don't do this. Take for example the pot on Garden of Hope. When you get trapped in it, your size gets much smaller so that you can, fit inside. But your stats stay the same as normal, likely because they simply intended for this to just be a visual thing. It's hard to tell that the stats are the same in regards to movement, but we can test the damage output to see, and Youngling's down tilt is doing 12% here, which is what it would normally do. So everything is as it should be. However, according to the wiki, in these settings, if we put on the bunny hood while we're in the pot, then all of a sudden, the size change does end up affecting our stats, even once the bunny hood is gone. And we can test this again by using the down tilt, which now deals 6.7%, basically half the damage. There's no real gameplay implications since this goes away once the pot breaks, but it's a pretty fun and weird side effect to the bunny hood. And in my testing, just for clarification, I realized it's not simply having the bunny hood equipped that does this, as if I put it on, then get potted, and immediately down tilt without doing anything, the damage is the same as usual. It's either when the bunny hood goes away in the pot, or I put it on in the pot that the stats change. Basically, I guess doing anything in the pot that causes the game to update or adjust your stats will cause the pot's size change to also come into effect when it shouldn't. So an equip like the Super Leaf wouldn't do anything no matter what, because it doesn't do anything to your stats really. However, the Metal Box, which does a lot to your stats, does have a similar effect as the bunny hood. And for icing on the cake, I tried this out with Xerneas's. Wait, how do you pronounce that? Yeah, sorry, but I feel like every time I say Pokemon's name on this channel, there's like 10 people in the comments like, why is he saying it like that? Is he fundamentally broken as a person? Okay, so I should be saying Xerneas, not Xerneas or anything like that, I guess. Basically, whatever. I tried it out with his little stat boost thing too, under both potential timing windows, and once the buff goes away, the same thing as before happens with weaker output and all that. I was also curious to see about how size change itself affected the pot, but guess which items straight up aren't available on this stage? Now this had me curious. Why else would they remove these items if not to prevent you from being small or big while in the pot? So you know what I had to do. I went to Custom Smash, made everyone small, and tested it out there. When the pot gets finished, you can see very barely that everyone inside grew just a tad bit. I guess the small size of being in the pot is still a little bit bigger than Mini Smash. So it's not like the game broke here and the whole logic with the bunny hood and stuff from before still applies, so you technically get a little bit stronger when you're stuck in here. I suppose it's just changing size while already in the pot that could potentially cause issues, but at the moment I don't actually know how I would go about doing that. Maybe I could just use Hero's Hocus Pocus and grind out the backfire that changes size. And okay, hear me out. At first I didn't really want to do this, and I wasn't sure if it was even possible to get size change effects when those items were banned from a stage, so I was just gonna brush it off. But in getting footage for that part, I got super lucky and got a super mushroom effect from Hocus Pocus. Granted, it was before the pot was finished, but this told me that it was actually possible to get it on the stage anyways. So I knew I had to grind for it now. And after not very long at all, that's the sound of the poison mushroom effect shrinking Hero. So here we can actually see what happens. And Hero's down tilt is dealing 4.7%, about half of what it normally does. But here's the thing, this is the same damage as when, say, we do the bunny hood thing as normal. AKA, this is the damage from the pot size change, not the Hocus Pocus one. As again, that's the poison mushroom effect, and normally a down tilt from that size deals 5%. So even if your size changes in the pot, it doesn't actually change, even if the act will affect the pot's own stat thing like we've been going over. And I wanted to see if this carried over to visuals too, so I went to a real match and grinded it out there. And we can hear that I got the super mushroom effect, yet going into the camera, the size of the heroes is completely identical, and the damage is around 5%, like the usual pot size is. It's a little higher than before due to the freshness bonus in this environment, but obviously way lower than a normal super mushroom. So that's really good to know, I'm glad I tested it. And if you're curious, yeah, you can still get stuck in the pot in Mega Smash, which makes the size change way more obvious. Though here, something else to test came to mind. Toon Link's voice is very noticeably lower pitched than it should be, right? You know, because he's larger in size, so, you know, it just sort of matches up. So if his stats get updated to the smaller version here, will that also update his voice pitch? And the answer is surprisingly no. His voice stays lower pitched despite being small, even though his damage values have certainly been updated to match his new size. So that's kinda cool. We are not done with the bunny hood though, as the wiki brings up how it actually ignores all mobility modifiers applied to someone while you wear it. I find that this is actually either pretty neutral, as the bunny hood would just sort of have the same effects, but maybe just more, or a downside in some cases like Acceleratl, where the bunny hood's horizontal air mobility is just straight up worse. Generally though, just because mobility modifiers are usually positive ones, it's not really a huge effect. But not all, and I think the most interesting case to show this off is Shulk's Monado arts. Again, for most of them like jump or speed, the effects from the bunny hood are so similar, if not better, that it's hard to notice much of a difference. However, you can probably see where I'm going with this, Shulk has an art that gives his mobility a heavy nerf. Yeah, shield art. It makes you move like molasses in order to justify the incredible amount of defensive power you get. But with the bunny hood? Nah, that's just not a thing anymore. Now you're just super fast and basically immortal. For like 3 seconds. But you know, it's a thought that counts. So if I ever find a bunny hood in a casual Smash setting again, you know I'm switching immediately to the shield art just to, you know, abuse that a little bit. Also, there's a funny exception to all of this. Wii Fit Trainer's deep breathing. Well, not really, but specifically walking with it. For some reason, this movement buff doesn't get overwritten by the bunny hood and instead just gets added onto it. Because running does get overwritten, this kind of means that walking with these two buffs ends up being just about as fast, if not faster, than running, which is really funny. It's been a while since we've had one of those facts, huh? The bunny hood's still stupid though. The wiki brings up how it just straight up doesn't apply a movement bonus to crawling, which is highway robbery, as other movement buffs are capable of doing this, so I don't know what that's about. And lastly for the bunny hood, it's brought up how it only puts bunny ears on character models and not the actual hood itself. And that's just inaccurate, because there's supposed to be a hood there. Like, wow, oops, haha. Okay, before our final act today, I just want to quickly mention that we actually have an official public Discord server again. Wow! Yeah, it's been a while since I shut down my last one, but I don't know, I wanted to give it a shot again with a bit of a different mindset. So if you want to head over there, chat with us, share your facts or anything else, I've left a link in the description. And also, if you connect your Patreon to your Discord and support my channel, you get access to some special channels, as way of saying thanks. Alright, lastly for today is this thing by Grace and Glory that I wanted to show off. So basically, this is what a normal Falcon dive looks like. Pretty normal angle. Now, using this setup, let's see what happens. Even if it's less lethal, this angle is crazy. So what exactly happened? As you can probably assume, it has to do with Snake's grenade. By timing it to where the grenade goes off in Falcon's hand at the exact same frame as the exploding hit of the Falcon dive, I guess the two knockback angles just sort of mess with each other too much and then cause this. So obviously I was curious if this was a grenade specific thing or if it could work with any explosive styled thing. The object I chose for this was the Deku Nut, as its pulsing acts as a pretty consistent indicator of when it'll explode. And after getting a super good setup going, I found, yep, even this works. So I guess it's less that it's Snake's grenade going off, and more so that any kind of explosion is happening at the same time as the finisher here. And yes, this happens against any character, not just Snake. If you're wondering my setup because you want to try it yourself, I count the number of times the nut gets big when it throbs, excluding the first time. Once I get it to throb number 15, I wait for it to get small, and then after the third frame after it starts getting big again is when I input the up special. And this works every time. So that's cool, but what about the move that's plagiarizing Falcon Dive? I came up with another consistent setup for Ganondorf's Dark Dive, and I don't really feel like explaining the whole thing, but basically I narrowed it down to 18 frames after landing, which has the grenade explode during the move, and 19 frames which has the grenade explode right after the move finishes. And we can tell that this doesn't affect the knockback angle despite being the same frame of explosion, so I guess it just doesn't happen for this move. I'm pretty confident my setup was consistent, but if you find out otherwise, just please let me know in the comments. And also comment what food you're eating right now. I'm having some leftover curry, which is it's pretty good. Anyways, that ends today's riveting adventure full of things being said from my mouth and stuff. It was actually a relatively normal video, wasn't it? Ew. Going back to my Discord I mentioned earlier, there is specifically a facts and trivia channel, which I will be keeping a close eye on. As you can imagine, if there's anything interesting that gets posted there, especially with proof to accompany, I'll probably be keeping it written down and using your post as proof. So if you have anything you wanted to share and feel like the YouTube comments are just a bit too unreliable, I definitely recommend joining and giving that channel a look. Anyways, that's enough plugging. So I'm just going to thank my stunningly marvelous patrons, Raighne, Still 700, Burbo, SpiderJew, and everyone else for the support. Stay casual, and I'll see y'all later.